we start draping the back bodies, we need to prepare our fabric that we use for draping the back bodies. Like we did for the front, we are going to fold along the center back. So we folded this inwards. We folded away 1 inch inwards. So once that is done, pressed and folded, what we need to do is to measure from the edge of your fabric. You're going to measure downwards 3 inches. So that will give you enough room for the neck. That is 3 inches from the edge of your fabric. So from that point, you're going to measure downwards again 4¼ inches. And that new point is going to serve as your shoulder blade level. Now that we have our shoulder blade level, I'm just going to extend that point like so. And what we need to do is to measure this same measurement on the other side of your fabric so you have a straight line. If you have a L square ruler, that is perfectly fine. All you need to do is to place your L square ruler on top and just square across. But if you don't have, what you need to do is to measure as well 3 inches downwards. After 3 inches, you're going to measure 4¼ inches downwards again. And once that is done, you're just going to join the shoulder blade level points together. So now that we have our fabric prepared, what we need to do, like we did previously, we're going to align the center back onto the center back on the dress form like so. Following the shoulder blade level, we're going to place that line onto the shoulder blade level on the dress form. Using our pin to secure that, you make sure it's well aligned along the center back. Your shoulder blade level is here, and onto your fabric you have the same line. Make sure they're well aligned and you use your pin to secure that in place. So once that is secured, go ahead to secure the neck point at the back, which is on your fabric as well. So you're going to pin that in place along the center back line. So you want to make sure you have your fabric flat on the center back. And once you get to the waistline, you're going to secure using your pins as well. Next thing we need to do is to locate where the waist dart is. So we're going to flatten our fabric onto our dress form and locate that point. Once it's been located, all you need to do is to get your pin to secure that point. Once that is secured, we need to fold away approximately 1¼ inches for our dart. So whatever this is, you're just going to take away around 1¼ inches from the waist. So you're just going to cross check if the measurement is correct. Measure that. So we need to fold away some more and make sure whatever it is that you're doing, it is not more than 1/4 inch. So we have that right about there. So I'm just going to pin that in place, and that will be used as the waist dart for my back bodies. So I have that pinned in place, and what I need to do next is to make sure I locate the side seam. So I'm just going to pin that in place before I start trimming. So now that I've pinned every position onto the dress form, I'm just going to snip again, trimming 2 inches away. You're just going to snip all the way to the center back to give you enough room, and you're just going to snip, 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 but make sure you don't snip all the way to the waistline. And this is just to create a bit of room. So we are going to pin along the side seam. So you need to flatten your fabric to make sure you see through it. Here I have the armhole point. I'm just going to pin that in place. So you want to pin along the side seam using your sewing pins, like so. Make sure you see through the fabric. So once that is done, you're going to turn your mannequin. So we're just going to use our marker pen or your pencil to mark where the dot position is. Flip to the other side, mark that point. So you're gonna go all the way through, making sure you have around 7 inches upwards. Around here. So you're gonna pin all the way through. So once that is done, you're going to as well go to the waist area and mark in the waistline and as well as the side seam. So once you've marked your waistline, your side seam line, we are going to concentrate on the neck area. So like we did before, we're just going to trim the edge, kind of like a circular motion. So once you trim that off, you have room to drape the neckline. So we're just going to use our pin to secure the neckline like so. So once that is done, we're just going to sneak this close to the neckline, but not all the way through. You need to be very careful. So you want to make sure you flatten it until it gets to the shoulder line. So once it's there, you're just going to secure that point with your sewing pin. So you've secured that. Then if you feel like you can have like a shoulder dart, but for this tutorial it is not compulsory and I'm not going to put in the shoulder dart for the back. So I'm just going to smoothen this area and make sure it's flat. So once that is flat, I'm just going to pin that in place along the shoulder line. So I'm just going to pin that flat like that. So I'm going to first of all trace or draw my shoulder line like so. Cut the excess fabric away. So I'm just going to start from here, cut the excess fabric away like so. So I have enough room for the armhole. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut out the excess from the armhole. This area, I'm just going to cut it down towards the side seam and cut that part out. I've got room here like we did before. I'm just going to measure from the armhole inwards, 0.5 centimeters inwards or 1/4 of an inch inwards, which is somewhere here. So I'm going to join this line to this line, forming a curved shape. So you can just use freehand to do that. So I'm just going to draw it like that. You can always correct this line when you transfer this onto your pattern paper, like so. So I've given that a curve. So once that is done, I'm just going to snip away or trim away the excess fabric into a circular motion like so. And I'm just going to pin down the excess fabric here. pin it down. So make sure you flatten this area like so. Feel free to take away your pin and pin that in place. You have to be very careful when pinning this dress form. So that is in place. So like we did before, 0.5 centimeters away from the armhole, you're going to mark that inwards. So around here, again, we're going to take that line straight down to this point, and that will be kind of like a circular shape, and that is your armhole. So I'm just going to trim the excess fabric away from the armhole like so. You can snip it if you want and pin that in place. So make sure you smoothen that area. So now we have almost finished the back. So your waistline, your side seam line, your armhole, your shoulder line. The last thing we need to do is to draw in the back neckline. So we're just going to follow where the neckline is underneath and follow that line for the back neckline. So as you can see, we've done the front. Once we take off the pins and we straighten it, we've done the front, the side, the back, and the back. The last thing we need to do, before we forget, make sure you draw in your back waist dart. We're going to take this off the dress form and transfer onto paper. We are done draping the front and the back of our bodies. What we need to do now is to go to the ironing board to press this flat. We need to make sure all the lines are straight, using our ruler and our pattern master to straighten all the lines. Where the curves are, we need to make sure the curves are well drawn to our fabric, using your ruler to straighten all the lines and all the curve lines. Once you're done correcting all the lines, mine look a bit messy just because I use a permanent marker, but yours will be a bit neater because you're using a pencil. So just ignore that. But what you need to do is to use your tracing wheel to trace off this pattern piece onto your pattern paper and add your 1 centimeter for your seam allowance, or feel free to use whatever seam allowance that you need. So now I am done transferring the bodice from my fabric onto my pattern paper. Remember, the front, you're going to place that on fold like so, and the back, you're just going to cut 2 pieces of the back. So I'm going to transfer this onto my calico fabric and join them up, and this is how it should look once you have finished sewing it. So